All right, all right. Season's greetings. Happy holidays to you all. Happy New Year. I am your host, David Lorenzo Glover, aka the Controversial Counselor. Joining me is my co-host, Herb Lewis, the Big Bad Wolf. Oh shit! Well, I might be in trouble tonight. The
That
youngest in
was a
charge,
long one.
the youngest in charge, Shaughnessy Andrews,
Hey,
and
hey.
the rest of the potential panel will be a Showtime decision. Our last broadcast was December 19th, in which we discussed I am not looking for a relationship to last, only to smash. Go back to listen to the playback to hear the content of that show. So let's dive right in to tonight's show to discuss the topic when parents fail their children. I know this is a sensitive subject, but we have to be real. No one has the perfect blueprint. So let me throw out a couple examples of failing your children when you have not resolved past trauma, unable to meet your children's needs, and giving them a lack of affection, just to name a few to marinate the subject. Now let's move on to segment two, signs that you are settling in a relationship. Let me drop two signs. You are comfortable putting up with deal breakers, and timelines are pressuring you. Another loaded show to kick off 2023. Are you ready? Bring your leftover New Year's Eve snacks and drinks because some of the things that will be said will hit home. Nevertheless, please like and share our video and subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Controversial Counselor. So here we have it. Like I said, Happy New Year. A lot's been going on.
Yeah, man.
A lot. I'm kind of looking back and forth at this Bengals and Bills game. A lot of playoff implications for that. But even far as with Buffalo, just the blizzard of 2022, that was crazy. I don't know. Last I know, it was what was it close, Herb? Maybe like 40 deaths, and it's just heartbreaking. And that city's been through so much this past year with the tops, that mass shooting,
Yep.
then this blizzard of 2022 is just. So I'm really hoping that, and I know this is not going to take away the pain, but I'm really hoping that the Bills can come through and give that city shine some light on it because they can use it right now. It's just been a horrendous year, as far as some of the things that went down. All right, so that's that. We'll start off with ladies first. Shine and see what's good with you.
Nothing much. I just been enjoying this Christmas break from school, but have replaced it with working. So I don't know. I haven't been doing much, but the holidays. I'm glad it's over. So glad it's
Okay,
over.
I hear you. I hear you. Herb, what's going on?
I'm gonna make a public service announcement off the top real quick. People, understand something. Those of us who work in guest services, we are not there to subsidize your humor, to be your whipping post, to be entertained, or to be your court jester. You're not Geppetto. We're not Pinocchio. Take care of your business. Stop agitating us and move the fuck on.
Wow.
Accusations of racism and things of that nature being levied against somebody you don't know because they don't entertain you not only are damaging, but they have the potential to get you fucked up. I'm telling you now, I've seen it firsthand. Y'all can come across somebody that ain't having that shit and they gonna give it to you. Word to the wise. Leave people the fuck alone.
Wow, man. Happy New Year 2023 is in
Right.
effect.
Oh, I'm serious, man. I'm like I said, I'm not gonna give too many specifics, but I had an individual at work who was cracking jokes. They weren't funny. I didn't laugh. The individual accused me of being racist because I didn't laugh, and she was Caucasian.
Hmm.
Like, man, you're not funny. Take your items, go. You're not funny.
You cannot get mad at, like I always tell my students, it's not a joke unless the other person is joking along with you.
Right?
So If they're not
Mm-hmm.
joking along with you, you can't get mad. Sorry, unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. Now, if the other person is joking along with you, that's a different story. But if you telling a joke and it's not funny, then sit your ass down somewhere and work on your craft of joking, because it doesn't work like that.
Like I said, we years ago, and I'm at the same place that I was then. We had an individual who's a little under the sauce, made an inappropriate remark to one of my coworkers, and one of my coworkers dusted him up. He didn't care about the job order. He dusted him up. So, like I said, when I tell you something, I'm not telling you because it's something I would
Oh
do.
my,
I'm telling you it's because it's something I've seen happen. You don't know what people have
and
going on in their
also,
life. You don't know what the straw that's going to break that camel's back. So
yep,
keep it moving.
yep,
Okay.
You know,
Yeah. So as we head into 2023, I know a lot of people make, their goals, their resolutions, and different things. So it's just, another year. Hey, I'm the one. I'm not try not to talk about too much. What I'm gonna do is you just gotta do it. You gotta do it. And when you do so much talking, especially like on social media and those platforms, you're gonna be held accountable. So beware of that as well. And we talked about before a couple weeks ago about information that you put out there, and um, for everybody to see. People are gonna comment, people are gonna say shit. So be prepared. And we always talk about real G's moving silent. So if you're gonna make some moves, make it happen, and uh, you know, keep your moves to yourself until you know that okay, this is legit, it's real, it's happening. That would be just my word to the wise. But we got an interesting topic, couple segments tonight. When parents
absolutely.
fail
I
their
agree.
children, and thank you for
Mm,
that, Shaughnessy. So, when parents fail their children, I threw out a couple examples. If you wasn't listening during the introduction, I said one of them when you're a parent that had trauma and you never dealt with it, and you kind of carried it over into your parenthood, and you're still not dealing with it, and you project it on your children and everybody around you. Sooner or later it's going to impact them. Also, parents that show lack of affection. I mean, and we joke around, we joke about that all the time and say it sound like your mother or your daddy didn't give you a hug, you need a hug or something like that. But imagine, as a baby toddler, and you never get that type of love and affection from a parent, how that's going to make you or how it's going to impact you throughout your life. And just overall, what was the other point? Whatever. Let me go back to, I'm looking at my notes. No, it'll come back to me. So, and we'll talk about it as we go on. So, Shaughnessy, Herb, y'all want to, lead into this conversation as well. What's your take on just the initial statement of when parents fail their children?
well, this was something that was brought by, at least I brought it to your attention off of a post in the counselor's corner. And it was asked if a woman is a grandmother at 30,
Oh yeah, yep.
has she failed her daughter? And there was some
I
consternation
think it
going
was
back and forth.
35.
Or was it? Okay, I'm sorry, 35. There was some consternation and discussion going back and forth. And I'm thinking, I'm 51. And I'll preface any statement that I'm making regarding this particular discussion, at least this talking point, that I don't have any children. Okay. I will make that declaration up front. When I was a kid, being a parent before the age of 2021, virtually unheard of. So it was impossible for somebody to be a grandparent that age because it just didn't exist. Now we can call it culture, we can call it whatever we want. But the bottom line is there was just some things that were just literally like unheard of, unfathomable. Now we move, our generation we move 15, 16. I'm like I said, I'm 51. And it's more commonplace than it ever has been. It doesn't matter what the demographic is, whether you're Caucasian, Asian culture is probably the one culture where it really rarely happens. But Native Americans, Hispanic, African American, it's more common than it was, like I said, a generation ago. I had always said that if I produce a child out of wedlock, that I wouldn't date until that child became of age. That was a pact that I made with myself, if for no other reason to ensure that that child receives all the attention, the care, and other resources that that child needs to become a fully functional, self-actualized adult. Now, that's just me. I'm not saying anyone else has to adhere to that. I'm not saying anyone else has to follow that. That's just me because I understood the greater ramifications when things like that are allowed to run unchecked. I can say this morning, there was a group of kids, well, actually, New Year's Eve. Let's go back to New Year's Eve. There's a group of kids, 16, there was three of them, happened to be African American boys. Couldn't have been no older than 16, 17, 18's pushing it. And they came into the hotel asking for a specific need that's entitled to guest only. And when I informed them that they weren't eligible for it, they wanted to negotiate. Now, when I was a kid, I was told that when you told no, there's no discussion, there's no second asking, there's no debate, there's nothing. You take your behind on and go. Now, these kids want to challenge authority, and I'm sorry, that's not going to work in this world. I don't care where you go, be it a job, a home, any other place where you're obligated to listen to somebody who has authority. Now, that doesn't mean they get to run you, but that does mean what they say is pretty much law. And I'm not talking about people who are abusive. I'm not talking about people who are looking to hurt somebody. I'm just talking about people who are there to keep order. Nothing more, nothing less. So these kids, they continue on till another coworker came by and tried to mediate the situation. The only thing that coworker did was make it worse. Only thing is that coworker doesn't realize it, because the more you subsidize the behavior, the more of it you shall receive. This morning when I was at work, there's a group of kids meandering about the place I work at. And I asked them, I said, what are you guys doing up this late? It was a rhetorical question. Because it's like 4:30 in the morning. When I was that age, we were never permitted out of the house because nothing good, like Jim Rome tells the professional athletes, nothing good happens in a bar after midnight. Get home. This is why we see a proliferation of a lot of younger kids getting in trouble. I just spoke to a police officer, incidentally, same morning, and this police officer informed me of a physical altercation involving 100 people. 100 people. All of these people were juveniles. If 100 kids are allowed to congregate and gather in the wee hours in the morning, then we have to ask, where is or are the parental figures? Why is nobody keeping these kids in the house where they're safe at? Just last year, I believe early last year, maybe late the year before, we had somebody get stabbed that was a youth in this city out at an insane hour. And nobody applies these lessons. These are life and death lessons that parents won't instill in their kids and they won't adhere to them. So I just don't get it. I really don't. So when we talk about parents failing their kids, there's multiple ways that a parent can fail their child. And one of those ways is by not instilling discipline. People want to be their kids' friends. I understand people don't want to be too tough on their kids because the parents were tough on you. The only reason some of us got to be older is because our parents were tough on us. They understood what the world was not going to do, and that's coddle. So people, you want your kids safe? Make sure they're safe by doing what you're supposed to do as a parent. Keep them in the house. Keep them away from the riffraff. And if you have to sit down and have a heart-to-heart with them, tell them, look, some of these kids you're running with, they're not going to make it. They're not going to reach adulthood without either getting somebody pregnant, getting pregnant, going to jail, or being a high school dropout. All of those things are roads to poverty. And some of these kids probably will never understand what it means to be out of poverty. So there's discipline. Like David said, there's love. There's the economic component to this. There's unwritten rules. I mean, there's so many things that encompasses. When I was running the mentor program, I would tell these kids, I say, look, a lot of people will call me a lot of things. They'll call me square, they call me scared. But the one thing they can never call me, and I believe I've said this before, and the kids that have been with the program long enough to have heard me say that more than once, they say they can never call you a criminal. I say that's correct. As especially people who are in the lives of young Black male youth, we have to get that driven into them at an early age. The earlier, the better. Because Black men, in more ways than one, are an economic engine for a lot of entities that don't benefit us. And that's something I will get into on another show.
I want to bring Shaughnessy in here, but before that, Shantina Spencer made a comment. She said these kids don't have parents; they have working mothers with 2 or 3 jobs, and that is real on the aspect that when you're trying to grind and you're trying to make things happen, sometimes your availability to be there as far as discipline and structure may lack. And if you don't have a strong family support, a lot of times these kids go unattended to. And growing up, my mother worked 3 to 11 often, and it was myself and my 2 brothers and my sister. But the one good thing we had was my grandmother we lived next door to. So my grandmother, grandfather, my aunts still stayed at home at the time. So we always had constant eyes on us on a regular basis. And my grandmother didn't miss a damn beat. So she was one of those ones that would sit on the damn porch and kind of monitor and see different kids that didn't belong there and ask us who is that and kind of watched everything. But back in the days too, people covered down for each other in the community. So you had a lot of parents monitoring you. That is not the case today, but we'll go further in that. Shaughnessy, what's your original take on the statement when parents fail their children?
So I believe initially, just speaking on the post, I don't think that, 2 things can be true at the same time. I don't think that just because your child got pregnant at, we're just going to give it 15, let's just say, that does not equal you being a bad parent, or it doesn't equal you failing as a parent, because a lot of the times, or most of any of the times, you're going to raise your children how you want them to be, but they're going to choose who to be. So I think there's a difference of, failing your children. Now, I did see another, this is just in this, just on this specific topic, there was a specific person that came into the ER that was having a miscarriage, 17. This is her third pregnancy. She was accompanied by her mother. This girl was on ovulation medication. Her mother has failed her. Because there is no way that the 17-year-old girl should be on miscarriage number 3 and on ovulation medication. Why is she trying to be pregnant so bad? She's not married, so it's not like you're supporting her in her marriage or whatever you want to call it. You're just allowing her 17 at this point.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. That's neglect.
Yeah, I also want to put this in there. I'm sorry.
Did y'all see what happened at the Bills game?
Somebody must be. I didn't see it. I'm just reading like
the game suspended. Caption. Somebody collapsed and is receiving CPR
right now.
Another hit for Buffalo. Oh my God.
That happened. That's going on right now.
Yeah, going on right now.
Oh, I had the radio on, but it's too low so it doesn't disturb the broadcast, and I got the earphone in. Yeah, I will tell you the segue. Being in security, I have been in 3 situations in which a code, I think we termed them as code blues have occurred. Mm-hmm. All 3 people passed. Yeah, it's not something I'd wish upon anybody. Really, it isn't. If you work in a facility, especially that is accessible to the public and deals specifically with the public, whether it's a restaurant, school, or whatever the case is, urge the leadership to invest in defibrillators and make sure people there are compliant with CPR training. I can't stress that enough. That's something going into this year that people should just look at. I mean, really, especially if you have elderly people at this particular at that particular establishment. But yeah, back to what I was saying. When we say failure, we're not talking about messing up. We're talking about not giving the child the proper instructions and the foundation upon which to build. So we're not saying that a parent did something wrong. We're just saying they did, like Shauna just mentioned with the young women here, they weren't given the guidance that they need, and more often than not, that's the case.
You think that's the majority? I think that yes. I think I can almost say it's 50-50, only because all of us have been around and have had that friend or had those friends that we know for sure their mother wasn't going for that.
Right, but like
at a certain age, we knew who parents wanted to play with. We knew who parents to sneak around, and we know who we could get away with a little bit in between. Mm-hmm. Now, that wasn't because they were strict or less strict. It was just everybody has their wins or losses about them. I had a friend that, we could go to her house and we could sneak out. Not because her mother knew we were going out. And not because her mother wouldn't put her hands on each and every single one of us. It was just the way the house was set up.
Right, and that's what I mean, and that's what David was talking about with his grandmother not missing a beat. That was more commonplace in our generation than it is in your generation. That's why I understand there's a generation gap where that village is no longer there. My mother, the old adage was, if she ain't home, and my mother was a single mother, had 11 kids. If she ain't home, bet nobody come in that house. And if she finds out,
you can't even open the door.
Say it again.
You can't even open the door.
Correct. And if she finds out there was going to be hell to pay.
Right.
A lot of that is missing. Go ahead, Dave.
And on the other end of that, we had a conversation, me and my mother, this past weekend with my family members, and she said how annoyed she would be when she would come home and we had a house full of kids. So my grandmother must have told her, "Listen, don't be annoyed by that. Kind of like that. That may be a good thing because at least you know where they're at.
Yeah.
At least you know where they're at. They're in the house, so they're safe. When you don't know, when you come home and you don't know where they're at, I guess obviously that would be an issue. So she kind of embraced a bunch of kids being in the same spot. Of course, you run the risk of somebody's gonna get out of line, somebody's gonna break something, especially when you have some nappy head rowdy boys doing everything, and we were rough, physical, rough housing, and all that stuff, which probably needed to be done outside. But that's the risk you take. But also, the safety issue is a big thing. Like they're home, they're safe, they're not in the streets, they're not at harm. So it's kind of you got to give and take, and you got to know how to pick your poison as far as that.
Yeah, and that's another thing. To that, and in all honesty, what I think what a lot of people don't realize is that peer pressure works both ways. You can have a good kid and had that kid with a group of people who are running amok, or you can have a group of kids who are straight laced and they got the one kid who likes to run amok, but that one kid don't want to be ostracized. That kid is going to conform because that kid don't want to be by him or herself. So, like David said, that works both ways. We just happen to see a lot less of it now, as opposed to when I was younger or when David and myself were younger, because we're roughly the same age. And being ostracized now doesn't matter because people have the internet, so they think they have friends on the internet, and they fail to realize that those people you encounter on the internet, they don't know you. They don't know your circumstances, even if you tell them, because chances are the kids telling them a one-sided story anyway. So if your mother is telling you that you can't go outside after school because your grades aren't correct, but she's got to be away, like Shantina said, working multiple jobs, you can go outside anyway. And it's not till you get to the point where you age out of high school, you don't have a diploma, you can't read at grade level, you can't even read close to grade level to function in the world. What are you going to do? What are you going to do as a 18, 19-year-old, 20-year-old who can't read? The only thing that's left for you to do is rob and steal. And that's going to be short-lived.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that even working in education for all the years that I did have maybe a total of like 28 years between college, high school level, middle school year, and elementary. So when you think about some kids, when you start having these conversations, even when they're in the 7th or 8th grade, some of them say, "Oh, they're just buying time." They're like, "I hate school." Like they ask questions like, "Yo, when can I drop out of school?" And they're saying this at like age 12 or 13, and I'm like,
Oh, wow.
we're like, what do you think your future is going to look like? That this is already in your mindset at 12 or 13, and it's crazy because you have to have these real life conversations with them so they can understand, because they even think someone will, well, I'll just get my GED. Well, the GED is designed now, you're not going to even pass it like that. You can't just drop out of school and think you're going to go take this test and get a GED. You have to have the fundamental skills to be able to pass that test, and that would mean that you have to attend school and be present and learn something. So to have that mindset. I don't know how it was. That was never my thought. So obviously, people did do it in the past that they would drop out and get their GED, but it's not cut like that anymore.
Oh
So
I
boy.
know somebody that dropped out and got her GED at 16. And by the
uh-huh.
time we were graduating high school, she was already finished her associate's degree. She pulled the she was so like by the time we were sophomores in high school, she was already into her career. And she did have the missing guidance or whatever the case may be, but she used that to her advantage. She used that to her advantage, and I was just like, dang, I could have did that because she dropped out. Got her because let's just be honest, you only need a 10th grade education to pass a GED. And then
Yeah.
once you go to the prerequisite college courses, you're relearning all of this stuff over again.
I
And
think I think over
that's
the
the
years it got
flaw.
more difficult.
Yes, yes, it has.
I,
In New
I
York
I
State,
agree. I can agree with that. But if you think about, and I'm not advocating for anybody dropping out. I'm just saying, if you think about some or certain individuals having those difficulties in school or having those difficulties in a high school setting, that may be the right path for them, especially if they have the potential and the intelligence to do something greater. Just because you don't or you're not succeeding in a school setting doesn't mean that you cannot succeed in life. But of course, again, I wouldn't promote it, but there are certain individuals that can't succeed in certain environments, and just because they can't succeed in that certain environment doesn't deem them incapable or ineligible to do greater things.
Well, to piggyback on that, this is true, and that's one of the things that even with the pandemic, the virtual learning and stuff, online learning, that a lot of kids they just can't be in that traditional setting. Maybe they're socially awkward, and maybe they like to be in, one on a computer and be able to do work as such. And then they have self-paced classes that they could do. So they come up with different options when you get in high school to be able to still get the curriculum that you need to get. So that is true. It doesn't always have to happen in a traditional classroom setting. There's more ways to get it. So you just gotta find a good niche, and you gotta have, a counselor and your parents. Everybody has to work together to find
right?
that
Now,
niche to
Yeah,
get you, over that river or whatever statement you want to use.
exactly. And I just like, and that was my main point in that on that statement when because that's a broad statement. At 35, being a grandparent is nobody's goal, nobody's wish. But again, when my aunt did it, she came from a two-parent household. There were 5 kids. Um, Everybody went to Catholic school, down to the grandkids. Me and my sister went to Catholic school. We went to private school up until high school. All of my aunts and uncles, when we were just because of how they're aged, my father is the oldest. Some of our aunts and uncles were in the high school while we were in preschool, in kindergarten, in first grade, and they would be the ones that pick us up because we were all on the same campus. Um, so that foundation was built. We were raised in a Catholic church. We were raised to, go to school. We all got our first Holy Communion. We all did confirmation. Um, we all did those things. But my aunt was at 15 pregnant, and she did have that baby, and her parents did support her in a way. She did finish high school from Bishop Lachlan, a private, very, very good school, Catholic school at that, with paid tuition at that age. My grandfather drove trucks. My grandmother was in some type of position at the bank. I know back in the day she used to when they used to manually approve checks, she did that for a long time. And at some point I think she used to work in the middle of the night. I want to say somewhere from like 6 to 3 or 6 to 4.
yeah, she was a check processor.
Yeah. And so my grandparents' house was always covered. But and and I do agree with always having your children in activities, because you always have your children in activities. They always have something to do. And I used to say that my mother used to always be at work, but we used to always be at activities. So there was no real time for us to be with the riffraff, because we always had something to do. We had to go to track. We had to go to ROTC. We had to go to this after school program. We had to go to this debutante ball. We always had something to do. So while she was at work, we were in an activity, but a lot of those activities you have to pay for.
Right.
So if your parents don't have the foundation, or even you can be a great parent and not have the affordability. You can come from a 2-parent household and not have the affordability to do these things for your children. But again, once she had that baby, that doesn't render, my grandparents as failures. She did what she needed to do. She did have the help from her family because, again, just like I said, our house was always covered. So, of course, my grandmother was able to be home while she was at school. She was home with that baby until my aunt got off of school. And when she got off of school, my aunt will always say, as soon as I walked in the door, she handed me my baby.
And you know what? And I think those grandparents and stuff back in the days understood family, connectivity, that they did whatever they can because they didn't want any embarrassment brought to their
But see, my grandmother
household.
wasn't worried. My grandmother wasn't worried about embarrassment, because being a member of the Catholic Church, your child being pregnant at 15, that's embarrassment. My grandmother would always say, I'm not embarrassed. Everybody's kid does something and makes mistakes, but my child will not be judged based on her mistakes. You'll judge her off her character and who she is within the society. She graduated because, of course, she had that baby. She did not go to college. She didn't initially go to college, but she entered the work field. She has been working for American Express for over 25 years now. She's always been that rich auntie. She's always been that rich auntie. So if ever, I just don't think just because that happened, you can deem it as a failure. Now, your parents do have to put you in a position just alike. They had to help her find, or push her in the right direction for alternate options. Okay, you did this, so here's a path that you can go on. And out of 5 kids, you're gonna have, out of 5, it's a ratio. You're gonna have some of them that's not gonna be the best.
And that's with knowing your children. Like a lot of times people say, oh, you need to go to college, you need to do that. You know your child, so you may know, like, they ain't about to do well in college, so I need to steer them this way. And you have to have these conversations on a regular basis to kind of program their minds to say, this is what you need to do. As a parent, I'm going to help you get there, and we're going to do whatever we can to help you get there. But again, a lot of times now, these grandparents that's 35, 36, shit, they're out there shaking their asses, doing everything, making twerking videos and all that stuff. Those are not the same grandparents that back in the days. It's different because, again, social media, visibility, and all that. They still trying to show everybody I got it.
We weren't privy to it. I'm big on saying that. I don't think it was no different. I think we just weren't privy to it because of social media, and there was a certain level of certain things shouldn't be done around kids. Because the older I get, the more I realize our parents ain't have shit together. They were winging it.
It's not so much whether they were or they weren't. They came into a consciousness that once you cross a certain bridge, you don't go back. And the reason you don't go back is because you have to move forward. So, like you're saying, your family afforded your aunt the ability to correct and redirect herself. Now, let me ask you this question about that particular aunt. Does she have any? Does she have any children?
Yeah, she has one. That was the one
Did
that she
that?
had at 15.
No, no. I'm talking about the aunt.
Yes, that was the one that she had at 15. She had a child at 15.
Okay, I'm sorry. Does your aunt? Did your aunt's child have a child that young?
No.
That's what we're talking about. Your aunt understood the issue that she had and understand the help that she got, and she didn't permit, allow, whatever term you want to use, her child to fall into that same trap. This is where we get into the situation where you can't escape poverty and it becomes generational, is because the kids are doing what the parents did. If I had a child young, there would absolutely be no way that I'd be sitting in a home of my own. I couldn't afford it. So when we talk about these type of things, they become generational traps. So if you
Mm.
get a so if you get a mother that's on the system, there is virtually no way that child, if that child doesn't get out of high school, and what it is this: if you get a child that comes from a single parent home and that child graduates high school without kids, a criminal record, doesn't matter if they go to college, they get a job, that child's ability to get into the second to the middle class increases exponentially. That's
Mm.
what it is. And far too often, because the way black people talk about finances is you have to make $100,000 to be successful in life. And that's something that needs to be put in context. Because if we look at this particular country, only about 20% of the people employed make that kind of money as an individual. Now, when you talk about married couples, that number rises more. But you start somewhere. A lot of people just simply put they don't have an opportunity to, because if they have kids young, they're due. And I say this as an individual who dropped out of high school, which is going to lead me to something that Shantina and Daphne have been talking about in the chat. The literacy rates, that's how they build your prisons. They look at your second and third grade literacy rates, and they know going forward,
We're going to need more space.
bingo. And who do you think is primarily occupying that space?
African Americans.
African American males.
Yeah.
And this is what I was talking about when I said that African American males are an economic engine for a lot of people, and we don't benefit from it. And here's how that goes. Let's start at the upper tier of the criminal justice system. Judges. There's not a lot of black male judges. Okay. Lawyers. There's not a black male lawyers. Shout out to two that are in the black manosphere, the lead attorney and Uncle D. I salute you, brothers. Y'all doing a yeoman's job, man. Keep teaching. So now we look at the corrections officer. Not a black, not a lot of black people. I know your sister is David, but we don't have a lot of black people in corrections. We're at the bottom of the food chain. So everybody literally is eating off of the back of the black man. So these people who are earning $100,000, they don't look like us, but they eating off of our tables, so to speak. This is why it becomes incumbent upon women that if you have a child and the father isn't present, find somebody that's going to help you with that child. Because as he gets older, he's going to be beyond your control. It's like the song that Mobb Deep sang years ago. We grown and all now we all be under cops' control. Better have the riot gear ready. That's what that means. You're going to need some type of force to control or oppose that force. I can't remember what Newton's law that is, but that's what that's telling you. That's what that's putting out there. It's like, look, we grown now. Some of us are walking around with that thing. And what you gonna do when somebody in your own community walks up to you, kicks your door in, or whatever the case is, and they're demanding something?
And we talked about this subject before, and always say that in education, one of the things need to be a push to have more black male
Mhm.
teachers or administrators um, in those grade levels of third, fourth, or fifth, because whether you know it or not, again, we talked about the literacy rate. That's how they, determine how many prisons they're going to open based on that. But also behavior wise, um, like these kids are they're they're doing some things at a young age, at like nine,
Mhm.
10 years old, and they somehow they need to make the pot sweeter for black males to say, all right, I'm with this. I'm gonna work with these kids. I'm gonna work at elementary. But most black males prefer, man, I'm gonna work at the high school level or whatever, because the kids is older and they don't want to deal with, again, parents that their kids can't do no wrong. They coddle them and they don't want to take take the advice from those teachers that's telling you, look, your child is doing this and doing that. So they say, the hell with that. I'm not about to be dealing with all this nonsense. So I'd rather deal with children that's older compared to younger. But we have to get these kids when they're younger, because some of them, their fate is determined by the time they hit middle school.
Yeah.
And so you have to reach them early. And I think we're failing. We're failing as a society on the way
Yeah.
certain things are set up.
Yeah. And I will tell you, I dropped out of high school at 16. Literally, I kid you not. Now, it was at the prompting of some people who I hung out at the community center, and that's something that doesn't exist nowadays, certainly the way it was when I was younger, that say, hey, look, if you ain't going to school, you can't come here. This school is not for dropouts. That was the impetus alone for me to get back in high school. Now, I'll say I graduated high school when I was 20. And in order to do that, I had to take English 11 and English 12 my senior year, which is going to segue into me speaking about what's going on in Baltimore year before last with a young man who didn't have enough credits to graduate, even though he was in his senior year. People were looking for the people to blame. And I'm going to tell you, it has nothing to do with the school district. It has nothing to do with your counselors. That's strictly on the parents and the student, because the district will tell you now they are not responsible for keeping track of your credits to graduate. That's your job and your parents' job. And it's unfortunate that that young man, and I believe a larger percentage in that district, were either at his level or below. This is something that just shouldn't be happening. And if it does, it should be rare. So when we talk about failure, like I said, it's not that an individual has done something wrong, it's that they didn't do the right thing. I mean, there's no manual for adults to raise a child. They're absolutely not. This is why your grandparents were critical, because as David alluded to earlier, they could pull your coattail about something. They may see something that you may be unaware and say, hey, look, that's not going to work for him. That's not going to work for her. Try this. Do this. That's because it's a cumulative uh, experience that your grandparents had gathered. We call it wisdom. So your parents can impart that wisdom upon you, and you can impart that wisdom upon your kid. At 35, sorry to say, very few people possess that kind of wisdom. I was good at 35, but I'm better now than I was at 35, which is roughly around the time that those kids, that third generation comes into the world. So now you have the grandparent, the parent, maybe some older cousins, aunts and uncles. That safety net has been all but obliterated. It just doesn't exist. And it's like I said, for us, it was paramount because of the way we came out of slavery. So if we look at, let's go back to 1865 when the Emancipation Proclamation was written. That essentially puts us about 6 generations removed from slavery. Generation being 20 years. My mother passed when she was 84. 4 generations. Her parents were direct descendants of slaves. They couldn't teach my mother much because they didn't know anything. So it was only by the goodness and the graces of the people around that we actually got some of the things that we did. And one of the things that we weren't allowed to do was mess up in school. Now, I happened to quote unquote fall through the cracks, if you will, because of some things that were going on. But I was intelligent enough to understand the information that a lot of people were giving me, and I was able to course correct, get my ass back in school and get that diploma, which is the foundation anybody needs to grow. Doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter how you do it. As long as you have that base foundation upon which to build, you can make something of yourself. But a lot of these kids, they're just simply put, they're not getting that base foundation. So they can't build, and anything they might accomplish is built on a foundation so bad that eventually it's gonna crumble. It only takes one thing to mess it up. And that's a lot of what we're seeing.
Shantina's dropping some good feedback. She said my grandparents were messy too. I had to figure everything out in adulthood. There are some messy grandparents and a lot of factors that contribute them being messy. And sometimes I think we have to have self-awareness to realize like who's messy, who's the person to go to, and there'll be a lot. We have a lot of dysfunctions in our family, black, white. Dysfunctions doesn't discriminate and based on color. It's a lot of dysfunction all over the place for multiple reasons, and you just have to. I don't know. Like they said, it takes a village. You have to make sure that you're connected with the right people so that you can limit your dysfunctions, because we all have dysfunctions, no matter how perfect that we may think we are, or every one of us have dysfunctions in our life.
Yeah, and I think the thing that would help is eliminating the shame that somebody feels for not being able to teach the child better. I think that hampers a lot of people coming forth and asking for assistance. So when I encounter, case in point, this morning, one of the young cats is using the term nigga, and I look at him and say, young man, don't use that language around me. And he said, what? And I went just like this. He said, oh, sometimes the correction that we as older adults offer has to be gentle enough for them to receive it. You can admonish in one or two ways. You can admonish gently, you can admonish harshly. A lot of these kids, when they receive correction, if they deem it too rough, they're not going to take it.
Which I agree. If that's something when you have to know that child, and unfortunately, we do have the older generation where we have some of them. There's a mix of some of them that believe and that feel because I am a child, because I am under a certain age, that I don't have any input, I don't have any opinion. So let's do what I say, and that's it. And that's not okay either.
Well, there's a time for authority to be assertive, and I will say that if you see somebody doing something that's potentially dangerous, you may not get the opportunity to teach them again. So in that particular regard, you have to be stern. You need to say, hey, look, don't do that. Because if they do it again, the results may be that they're dead. And that's a lesson that you don't want other people to learn. So there's a time where absolutely being firm and sometimes harsh is the only way you get that lesson across. I'm speaking specifically when there's other opportunities, because having worked with some of the kids in this particular area, I've seen it firsthand that some kids you got to come across and, hey, don't do that. I'm not saying hit the kid. I'm just saying you got to get their attention. Say, hey, that's not the way you do that. And I'll say, why I've done it before? Because you're going to do it to the wrong person. And you're going to end up under the underside of a Timberland because some of these adults are not playing with these kids because they know what these kids might do. That's the thing that people have to be aware of, is that these kids, they will lash out. Not because the person that they're talking to has did them wrong, but because so many other people have done them wrong. And like you said, Shaughnessy, nobody is offered to get their input, which is crucial because it lets you know how to deal with them. Because every kid, let's face it, every kid that somebody encounters, they may not know how to deal with them. I understand kids' psychology. Because somebody said that, do you have a degree in psychology? I said, no, I just understand behavior. And it all comes down to that. We all fall into some type of behavioral spectrum. Doesn't matter. And if you understand what motivates people, Willie used to say that all the time. He said a stepfather took him out, would go to houses, collect money, and lay it on the seat in front of him. Got Willie's attention. If you understand adults' behavior and motivation, you can get anybody to do damn near anything across the board. Doesn't matter who they are, doesn't matter what walk of life they come from. But that's the critical component.
Yeah, one of the things, and I know one of the talking points of this thing was dealing with trauma, and a lot of people don't know how to deal with trauma. So a lot of times things are being swept under the rug, and you figure like it ain't, the old saying, "What don't kill me makes me stronger," and you feel like, well, I ain't dead, so I'm still living, and but you still continue to sweep certain things under the rug that should be addressed. But it's about a comfort level of trust of who to go to help you with the trauma. So, a lot of times we're walking around in a society with a bunch of people with a lot of trauma.
Mhm.
And we wonder why certain outcomes are triggered by certain things because people don't know the correct way. And in our culture, we talked about this before, that we think, okay, going to church is the solution. But like I said about a year ago, you go to church, you're just listening to someone. You're not giving feedback. That whole deliverance is, I don't know if it's helping people grow, because you're getting examples from someone and they're talking to you, but you never get a chance to give any rebuttal or say, hey, this is going on with me. What's your I mean, you can have, I guess, private conversations or whatever the case is, but it needs to be more of a teaching forum that people have an opportunity. They're there to have a group discussion. It just can't be somebody talking at someone. Then you get up and leave and say, oh, that was a good word.
Mhm.
That's not going to work. And it hasn't been working. And we should know by now it's not working. But we keep doing it because we seem to think, oh, that's the way it's supposed to be. Shit need to change.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Like I said, though, I've been blessed, in my life, I've been in foster homes, like I said, high school dropout. I've seen a lot, to be my age, I suppose that I'm, statistically speaking, I'm past the halfway point of my life expectancy, but I still feel like I have like a lot to do, in terms of what I want to accomplish. I still want to put a mentoring program together because I want to leave that behind in perpetuity, because I know society's rarely get better unless the people in those societies do the work. You know, no government has come along and made a society better. Now, they may set the groundwork for people to build upon, but we still need the individual people in those particular communities to build. And this is going to lead back to what we were talking about at the top of the show in terms of the weather. David and I are old enough to have seen the blizzard of '77 in the Western New York area. We had a greater population and less people transition. The former mayor of Buffalo, Jimmy Griffin, would get on newscasts and tell people, hey, look, this is six-pack weather. And what he meant by that was go get a six-pack, stay your ass in the house, don't come outside until we give the all clear. Now, I'm not blaming any one particular entity in this. This is the failure of many people. We heard stories about individuals doing heroic things, putting themselves at risk to go save other people, to assist other people who were in bad straits. We knew this storm was coming a week in advance. So all the things that an individual needed, they should have gotten beforehand. You had people that were waiting to do last minute Christmas shopping, and you had people that wanted to venture out in the weather. Now, I will say this, in Niagara Falls, it was not as bad as it was in Buffalo. And the reason why I can say that is because I walked to work in it. I even live streamed it. For those of you who want to see what it looked like, go to my Facebook profile, it's open, and scroll down and you will find it. I have never been in a sandstorm, but I know what it feels like now because that wind was blowing so hard that it was taking those fine grains of snow, and it was literally felt like it was cutting into my eyes. I had to turn around and walk backwards for probably 2/5 of the way there. There were stretches where it was just open field, and that wind was coming. But the reason why I say that is saying what I'm saying is this. We knew on our block who was elderly, so we went and checked on them. I don't know if that exists anymore. We also understood that if the worst case scenario happened, power went out, you had an alternative means of keeping warm. And that was the thing that killed a lot of people. It wasn't the snow, it wasn't the wind, it was the cold. So we as households, we don't have a worst case scenario situation covered. Case in point, I have multiple kerosene heaters in my house, and I actually have to check them to make sure they still work. I have kerosene, and I have a room that I can keep warm, at least 60 degrees, which sounds cold to most people, but given your choice of 20 degrees or 60, you'll choose a 60. I had a room that I can keep warm. The cats will be fine. They can exist in that kind of cold. They'll come and eat, whatever the case is. That doesn't exist anymore. And this is part of the failure of parents by not teaching their kids, especially in cold weather climates. I mean, if you go down to the Gulf Coast of the United States from, I'm going to say, from North Carolina down to Florida, those people understand what to do when a hurricane hits because it happens so often. In this particular area of the country, we get inclement weather, but it's something we generally can several out from. Not so much in the blizzard because blizzards hit once in a generation. Case in point, 77, 22, looking at almost 40 years. So we lack the preparation, the individual preparation and the communal preparation to understand that this is something that every winter we should be prepared for.
And that's where, just to go back to, parents and preparing your child, just because you don't have that knowledge doesn't mean that that has to skip over your child. And that's where those activities matter. Those ROTC programs, those camping trips, and
Mm-hmm.
us as black people, that's white people shit.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not white people shit. I know how to stay warm.
Mm-hmm.
I know how to start a motherfucking fire,
Mm-hmm.
even if we have to be outside. I know that we can round circle and tell our neighbors to come in. These people I don't know, Boy Scouts,
Mm-hmm.
Girl Scouts,
Mm-hmm.
all of that stuff. That's when all of that stuff matters, because just because I don't know how to do it, that doesn't mean that, just because I don't know how to do it, I'm going to let it skip my next generation, or I'm going to exclude my children from getting this knowledge. It's just as that we have to let some of that ignorance go. We
Yeah.
have to let some of that ignorance go, and just like you said, be prepared and be ready to, survive in these moments. I
Mm-hmm.
joke on my father all the time. He has this whole military space boot space camp, and I'm just like, in my head, I'm like, boy, nobody's coming to get you. Like, no, I'm not getting the radio. I'm not getting this walkie-talkie with you. And no, I don't care about your secret channel. But to be honest, it's needed. It's important.
And one of the things to kind of go back with the storm thing and how people were doing last minute running around or felt pressed that they had to get out for the holidays and make sure this and that. It
Or some
kind of
people just have to go to work. Like you hear about that girl that passed away in her car. I'm sure that if she had the cushion, because let's just imagine if it was 2 to 4, 2 to 6 inches or something like that. If I have the cushion to say, hey y'all, I ain't gonna make it, I'm not gonna make it. But if I don't have that cushion, I'm gonna have to go to work. I'm gonna have to figure it out. I'm gonna have to slide there. I'm gonna have to spin my tires there, but I'm gonna have to get there because I need these hours. I need this paycheck to line up.
well, when in certain cases people they stayed at work, they didn't
Yeah.
get up on those roads.
Right.
She got out on those roads and never, never made it home.
But that's
So
again, that's on the job. That is on
yeah,
the job, because I remember, I think this is when I was in Baltimore. Layla was only what, 4 months old, or she was young at that time, and I worked at Hopkins. Hopkins didn't send anybody home. That was a work decision. They said, look, if you are here at this time, you are our responsibility.
Right.
This is what patient room you're assigned to. They doubled up beds. I still have in my phone where on the board, on a whiteboard that's typically, for your patients, it had my assignment with another one of my coworkers. Y'all can't go nowhere. We got wipes, we got mesh briefs, we got paper scrubs, we have real scrubs. Pick what you want, but you ain't going.
see, and one of the things that I wanted to say as far as that, for the people that felt like, okay, I had to be out there for the holidays. Come on, let's keep it real. We can celebrate any damn day we want to at any given time. It
Yeah.
just don't have to happen because, oh, it's December 25th. If the weather is bad and you got things going on, you can say, hey, we're gonna come to a family, we're gonna come together this such and such date that we all can
That's where
still
society
come
gets
together.
spun up in the wrong things.
Yeah, and that's the thing, getting caught up in the wrong things and being worldly and not realizing like, hey, it's other important things that we have to deal with. So it's unfortunate. And then even to keep glancing over at the TV and the Buffalo Bills game, another setback. Like it
Right.
doesn't end for that city. It just doesn't. It's like a nightmare.
And I just want to say, human beings are, I don't know how they did it or what they did, but they have a sign already that says, pray for Buffalo, number 3 Hamlin. And I'm just trying to figure out, where did they get the supplies? Like, where? Like, how did y'all do this so quick? They're sitting in the stands after the game is, officially suspended for the evening. They have supplies, and I'm just like, where did they get that from? Like, what y'all bought
People,
supplies?
I'll tell you where that stuff comes from. A lot of people will, what they'll do is they'll bring in a sign already, but
Okay.
the backside is empty. You have a lot of people that seek autographs afterwards. So they already have the markers
Gotcha.
ready. And bang,
Gotcha.
just turn around and
Okay.
start writing. The people,
Right.
given the opportunity, people are very resourceful. And you alluded to it earlier, Shaughnessy. I guarantee you that the people that you saw holding that sign were Caucasian.
Absolutely.
This is see, we have to as black people, we have to break this type of mindset, thinking that hunting is for them, that's for them.
Mm-hmm.
None of this is for us because last I checked, the same way a virus kills them, it kills us. The same way they freeze to death, we freeze to death. McDonald's serves everybody the same kind of hamburger. So I don't know what people are thinking, man. I'm just like, look, you got to break that curse, man. And I know some of us have some uh, parents, if you will, great grandparents who came through Jim Crow, who came through sharecropping, who was on the other side of civil rights movement before there was civil rights. So if you're getting your information from them, that's fine, but update it. Don't live in the past solely because if you do, you're not going to get to have what the future potentially will offer you. Same people. Get it together. Get it together.
So it's so many, it's so many different variables to the failure of parents, like we mentioned about the lack of affection, uh, the impact of marital issues. Uh, it's so many different things, and it's something that we have to look at and think about. And kids see a lot. They're they have they have more ability than we had to, because of social media, the internet, and stuff like that. So, and Google and all that stuff. So, any particular thing they can kind of view or see, where we didn't have that. We were limited on certain things. So, even as parents, so you have to stay in tune. You have to know what's going on. uh, it's not acceptable to say, well, I don't know anything about the internet. I don't know anything about computers. I don't know. You guys may need to take a class. You may
Yeah.
need to do something to stay up with times.
Each
Um,
one teach one. I
yeah.
don't know
Mhm.
how many old school nurses have came to me and pushed their phones in my face and been like, "Look, my daughter, she's 16. She been doing this, that, and the third, but this would teach me." And I'd be like, "Boop boop 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 boop." Like you have to, you have to be willing to, say I don't know how to do it and I need help. Fix it. Help me how. Tell me how. And I'm like, look. Call me anytime. You think she did a switch maneuver? Call me, and I'm gonna tell you what it is. I'm gonna tell you what it is, where it could be. Search hash. I'm teaching them how to search hashtags and look at they. I got so many of them nurses that they have fake Instagram pages so they could look at their child pages. It's crazy.
But that, and honestly, that's exactly and that Daphne is saying that, and that's what we mean. You you're not shaming these people because they don't know. So now, and this is what we were talking about earlier before we came on. They trust you,
Yeah.
so they come to you. They confide in you. You haven't betrayed them. That's how the trust grows. So
Right,
now if
and I
they have,
mean, we work especially in the environment where we work in.
mhm.
We are in the emergency department, saving lives all day, each day. Sometimes we are in positions where, um, I may be on the floor, you know, it Indian style, have a patient's arm pulled down, and there's a doctor over me trying to do an ultrasound, and there's somebody that I'm like, look, throw me this, and somebody is like, wait, I'm gonna put this in your bra so you have it. So
Yeah,
at that point, we locked in. We are
yeah,
locked in.
yeah. All that other stuff goes out the window.
Right. So it's just that environment where we may not um really have any outlook or any participation in each other's outside life, but it's like where we come here, We're in a safe space. Even when we on New Year's Eve when we worked together, we made it a priority. We all met in our trauma bay, not to do anything but celebrate with each other because we're here. This is a moment. We are family. We're gonna hug each other, and we know it's about to get real after 12 o'clock. We
Yeah.
know it's about to get real. Which this is completely off topic, but I would like to say people do not. I just don't understand how on like I feel like where's the violence etiquette? People don't even wait till 12 o'clock to start the violence. When I say it
Oh,
started at 7 o'clock, we were trying to have huddle. We couldn't even have huddle. Gunshot wound after gunshot wound after gunshot wound, and we're like, yo, what? Like the night didn't even start yet, and then it was so nice outside. Of course, because it was so nice outside, everybody looked and saw it was 65 degrees, and we was like, oh my god, it's 65 degrees outside. It's gonna be worse. We were hoping for the cold so people stay inside and kind of stay
yeah.
warm. But it's
Uh,
just like y'all.
and part of the problem with that is people start drinking and drugging all day long, celebrating. And sooner or later, that's going to impact your decision making. So you end up in these situations where maybe if you were at you know,
Family function.
a good state
Oh,
of
jeez.
mind, you would be able to walk away from it. But if you drunk as hell and impaired, then it leads to outcomes that you like, damn, you didn't messed up. You didn't
Yeah.
destroy so many people with those decisions. Your life is jacked up. Your kids' life is
Hmm.
jacked up. That family is jacked up. And now
Yep.
you're spending the rest of your life in jail. And for what? For what?
Yes. Yes. I saw this young girl, and I don't know. It particularly hit me different because she just was going crazy and she was intoxicated. Police brought her in. She hit a pole. She was drunk and I'm just like trying to calm her down. I'm like, look, like you don't have to act this way. Just relax. Just relax. And she's like, y'all not helping me. It's nothing for us to help you do. What we're doing and what we're here to do is make sure medically you're okay. But you have to calm down. This part of it, I don't have to do. I'm trying to
Yeah.
tell you to calm down because you're messing things up for yourself. Be polite to these police officers. Be polite so they can say when you get to court, she was participating. She was
Yeah.
doing this. She was doing this. This is what happened. Like y'all acting a fool and I don't convince the officer. I'm like, look, she's calm. Let her change her clothes because she done peed on herself. Let her change her clothes. I'm gonna get her some wipes. I'm gonna get her some paper scrub. Let her clean herself up. Get herself together. She'll calm down. So man, as soon as I left, the girl started acting a fool. I came back, paper scrubs ripped the girl back in cuffs. Another girl
Oh,
belly
jeez.
flopped out of the wheelchair. Forgot she was in restraint, 4-point restraints. Belly flop straight fell on her face, and now your whole face is messed up.
Oh, boy.
Like you got teeth missing now. You got teeth missing now. And you were lucky when you came in here because one, you hit a pole, you didn't kill yourself, you didn't kill anybody else, so you were lucky. You were still able-bodied enough to yell and scream and cause all this ruckus, and now you doing the most. Now you missing teeth at 24.
Ugh.
So as you can see, the impact of all of this,
One
and
night, one decision.
we might start off talking about how you feel, parents feel, but all of this stuff is bigger than just the simple
Yeah,
statement that's made. Like it's so many different variables, and that's the point of having these conversations. And I appreciate Daphne and Shantina in the comment section, bringing their knowledge and expertise and their experiences to the conversation, because sometimes that's what
right.
makes the conversation when you share
Absolutely.
personal experiences. So that was a great segment. I do want to go on to the next one about signs you are settling in a relationship and some of the things. And I don't remember the actual post that kind of I don't know, Herb, you might remember what kind of led um, to this particular segment. I didn't write it down, but
There was a pulse, which I didn't really initially when I saw it, I kind of dismissed it. But then I got to thinking after I saw a response from a younger gentleman. I think the gentleman's in his mid 30s, and it asked. Let me pull up the female version as well, so I can make sure I get this correct. It asked if you had $5 in which to build the ideal mate, what qualities would that ideal mate have? Now, I wrote down the list of the men because that's where I actually got it from. And you don't necessarily have to write this down if you don't remember it. That's okay. And it had the perfect dollar. The perfect body will cost you $1. Mentally stable will cost you $2. Owns a business would be $2. No kids would be $3. Permits sex with other women, $4. Cooks, cleans was $1. Submissive was $3. Low body count was $3. Low social
Lord.
skills was $2. And good convo was $1. What I saw, excuse me, was men of a certain age had picked two things across the board and they didn't care about the rest of the stuff. And those two things were good convo and mentally stable. I
Oh
think
Lord.
cooks and cleans was the other one because I selected mentally stable, cooks and cleans, and good convo. I had $1 left over. But what I saw with the women was they had multiple things. And this is not to take a shot at women. They had multiple things listed because they were unsettled. And what I thought back to, I said, now, my younger self, those things wouldn't have been at the top of my list. No kids, great body. And I'm thinking, I've moved so far to the conservative side of things. And of course, age has a lot to do with that because I expect women my age to have probably been married, at least had one kid, divorced, or whatever the case it is. So my expectations for certain things in a mate are more aligned with what somebody my age has probably endured. So I'm willing to say, okay, you know what? If you have kids, I'm not against that so long as they're not at home. If you're not good socially, I can help you with that. Um, I'm not looking to have sex with multiple people if I'm in a committed relationship. Those things go by the wayside. But as you're younger, some of the things are more important than others, and you get to a point where you start to transition in your maturation that other things start to mean more. And I'm trying to figure out where does that point come. So that was the thing that brought about that.
mm. So yeah, when you look at it, it also made me kind of look at the point of, you have that list and all that stuff, but when do it gets to the point when people feel like they're settling and they know it's things that they originally look for, but they're not getting. So when do you
I think
determine what are signs that determine that, okay, I'm really settling, this is not what I signed up for, this is not what I want. But go ahead,
mhm.
Shanti.
I think that's with the human race. A lot of the times we have to get burnt first. We have to think that what we have is not good enough, and we go looking, and we realize this dating pool is dookie, and this person that I may have had or may have been with, and you know, may have said, this is not the person, this is not everything. He's missing some things. She's missing some things. We begin to realize that the things that he or she is missing is good compared to what's out of here, what's out here. And I don't know particularly if you would call that settling or coming to the realization that I'm flawed, he's flawed, people, human beings are flawed. It's just what flaws am I willing to deal with? And it's what, because you may have the person that is, I think about the good guy, bad guy thing. You're like, okay, well, this person he provides, and you know I can have these trips, and I can do this, and I can take off when I want, and I can do this, but I'm not being loved the way I want to be loved. And then you may have another guy where it's like, you know I have to work, or he may not be the necessarily breadwinner, but I have to, I guess I have to do more within this relationship financially. And it may not be, we are 50-50, but we may be 80-20. And some women don't like that, but that's better than what's over here.
And I think one of the things also, and I mentioned this in the introduction, you may know you're settling when you are comfortable putting up with deal breakers. When it's something that you said, this is a non-negotiable. I would never settle for someone that drinks as much because my father was an
Oh
alcoholic or my
no,
mother
see,
was an
I feel
alcoholic.
like deal breakers are deal breakers.
Yeah.
There's a difference in so I guess that's where I misinterpreted what you're saying. What you were saying. A deal breaker to me is a deal breaker. If I'm saying I don't want somebody that has what, 3 or 4 baby mothers, then that's it. I don't care what you have. Three, because to me it feels like you lack commitment.
But there are on the other end, there are people that get comfortable with those deal breakers that they originally said they would never do, and that's when
But
you
how
know.
can you be comfortable with somebody that you can clearly see that doesn't, like, I can't work on you having 3 to 4 baby mothers. That's what it is. That's not going to change.
Most
That's
people are
not going to
comfortable
change.
uncomfortable.
Hmm.
Most people live
Mm.
like that. They're comfortable being uncomfortable. That's just their way of life. Like they're in an uncomfortable situation and they're comfortable with it and they don't want to grow. We always talk about that. The only way you grow is when you're uncomfortable. So you have to do something about it. And a lot of people are okay with being uncomfortable. So that was one of the signs. And then timelines are pressuring you. When you start looking at on the outside, maybe it's your friends. They're all married at a certain time, or they all have, degrees or went on different jobs, and then you feel like, okay, I'm with this guy. Um, we're all right. We got a good relationship, or whatever the case is. We're solid, but then you might feel like you're settling because you're comparing what other people are doing, and then that leads to added pressure for you because now you feel like, all right, this isn't working because such and such, they're only this age and they're already married. They have a home. We don't have anything. And that may kick in that you're settling. And you maybe just y'all at your own pace and everything is good. So just something to think about. Those is two. Y'all
But
can
you don't know
chime in
what
based on
people
that.
deal with in their background. You don't know what people deal with in their background. You don't know what people have sacrificed in their background. You don't know how long somebody was unhappy in order to get to that state of happiness.
This is true. You only know what they tell you. And most of the time, unless you're someone that, yeah, have that strong trust and connection that you're willing to share certain things. But a lot of times, you got to be careful who you share stuff with because you don't know how they're going to use that or twist that information. And this could be somebody you grew up with and you thought, like, okay, we got a solid friendship, but then they turn around and try to expose you with that information. It's a sketchy world out here.
Yeah, that's and part of that, what David has said is a lot of women will say that men aren't open. that with their feelings, and that's part of the reason why is because a lot of men have seen, not necessarily experienced, but seen other men have information that they reveal to a significant other used against them. And the last thing that any man wants to be is unnecessarily vulnerable to something he can't defend against. Being helpless as a man in this society is frowned upon because a lot of people say, okay, if you can't defend yourself, how can you defend a potential child that you might have? How can you defend a potential girlfriend or a wife? And it's what society perceives as the ultimate sign of weakness. And no matter what we think, no matter what we want or desire, that's something that's just ingrained in human nature. We're never going to get by it because that's a base instinct. Most people look for men to protect. And for anybody that disputes that, I'll give you two entities that you can look at. Look at your military, look at your police force. Those two entities are predominantly men. It's not that women can't do it, it's what society looks at. Society doesn't look at women to save it. Society doesn't look at women to protect it, maybe propel, but not protect. And this is why that becomes important.
I can agree with that because people don't see presence is everything. Presence is everything. And once you have presence there, especially of a male, people carry things different,
Mhm.
whether it is male or female. They'll try to take advantage of you, no matter how intelligent you are, no matter what money you bring to the table, or, you know, people will always, just society in the whole, they're more likely to play with females in such a way and not play with males. And some women, just like you said, self awareness is very important. Some women haven't come to that realization. I know me personally, I feel like, I'm independent. I can take care of myself, I can take care of things, but there are certain situations that I'm like, oh no, I'm going to get such and such guy to come with me. I'm going to get my father to come with me. Or even if I walk up to this place and I have my father on speakerphone, that's what I'm going to do because they're not going to ultimately say, "Oh, young black girl, we're going to tax the extra 200."
Yeah, it's about having resources and knowing when to utilize them and making it work for you. And that's the thing. If you got that's why we always we talk about it's not good to burn bridges, and it's always good to have different different people on your team for different
Hmm.
things with different strengths, so that any particular situation you would have someone that you can count on, like the old game show, phone a friend, like somebody like, okay, I need this right now. Me and this person has a good relationship that I know that I could get that from them. But
Yeah,
if you burn bridges and stuff like that, sooner or later that shit all catches up with you, and you
Yeah.
become an adult with no connections, or and you're
and
known to
that's
burn bridges because people talk, people
Mm.
communicate, and they
and that's why
collaborate
you
stuff.
that's why you always want to, like, some people may say, I'm in the tech world. I don't need, or I don't necessarily need to go to a networking event for healthcare. You never know. It could save your grandmother's life. Because that day where you're in the hospital, you don't know what's going on with granny, and you feel like the staff may not be treating you right. You may have to, just like you said, phone a friend and say, hey, this is what's going on, this is what's blah blah blah. You have that person that has knowledge in this space and is able to say, okay, well, did you do this test? Well, did you run this test? And did you do this? And did you do that? Just because you're in a tech world, it doesn't mean nothing in healthcare or health field can help you, or vice versa. Oh well, I'm this person, or I'm the CEO of this company, so I don't need to know about plumbing. You never know. Why do I need to talk to a janitor? You never know.
Absolutely, yeah.
The bottom line, everybody has value.
Mhm.
Right.
Everybody,
Exactly.
especially if they're credible, that you never know when you're gonna need someone. Like you said, plumber could be a mechanic or something. You could be having, it could be something minor. You could call a friend that's a mechanic. Like, "Look, it sounds like this is what's going on. Don't let this person, don't let them try to convince you to get this fixed when you only need to do this." Uh,
Y'all, that happened to me.
mm,
I needed my brakes done. And one of my friends told me, he was like, "Where are you taking your car?" And I was like, "Here." He's like, "I promise you," and it was the dealer. "They're gonna tell you you need calipers. Tell them no. You don't need calipers. You're not getting your calipers done." I swear to God, y'all know they told me I needed calipers.
mm,
That
yeah,
was the first thing they said. They was like, "Oh, you're gonna need this, 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 and calipers." And I was like, well, why? Can I see them? And then it was like, "Oh, well, after I looked at them, we can actually blah 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 and da 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 da." I thought this one was gonna be stuck, and it's just like, had I not known that, I would
yeah.
have been out of what, an extra $700.
And that's the and that's the uh, and that's the thing, that's the nature of it. They make money, so they could see you walking in like, okay, we're going to say this so that we can, and most of the time you just want to make sure, I want to make sure everything is all right, so they're going to get that money. But because you had a resource to tell you this ain't, you're not going to need all that, you'll save money and you'll make out. So it's important, like you said, with healthcare, you may have a small issue going on and like, okay, this is going on with me, and you talk to someone that's in healthcare that has understanding, and they may tell you, you need to do this, you need to go to the ER, you need to do this or that, and it could be life changing. So you have to have multiple people in different roles in your life. If you
And be
someone
good
say,
to
I don't
people.
need nobody, I don't need shit, I don't need nobody, because a lot of times people say that, and I like, that's a
Yep.
crock of bull, that's a crock of bull.
Right.
Everybody needs somebody.
Absolutely.
So people say that, you sound like fools in damn sheep clothing.
Right. Exactly. Everybody needs somebody in some capacity at some point in time.
Mhm.
None of us can do this thing called life alone.
So, yeah, that's I mean, and it's other different signs of settling. One of the things that caught my eye is uh, when you kind of put everything on hold, you put yourself on your life on hold, and it's things that you want to do and you could done, but you're still waiting. That person has you like on a leash, and you're not getting anything accomplished, but they're accomplishing everything. So
Yeah.
you have to think about that too. Like, okay, it's
Been
time
there,
for
done
me.
that.
Yeah, it's time for me to make moves, and I'm not going to put myself on hold. This is something that I want to do. It
Been
kind of
there, done that, and got left for it.
it kind of reminded me of the Best Man final chapter with the whole Robin and Harper thing and how that played out. But that's a whole
Yeah,
nother
don't
kind of
don't ruin
topic.
it for me. I haven't had a chance to watch it.
Okay, we'll say that.
Speaking of which, Dave, I'm glad you said that because it segues into something that I want to bring up regarding this point. I was talking earlier about um transitioning. At what point does that occur for people? Now, for those of you who aren't in the limelight, or at least to this aspect of information, there's a young woman. So I think she's approximately 30 years old now, right now. She had a child with a professional basketball player. Her name is Brittany Renner. Renner is spelled Renner.
Oh Lord.
Now, just listen.
Freak Nancy.
Recently,
Go ahead.
no, just listen. I'm not here. I go out of my way to not denigrate people because I don't think that's effective. She recently did a sit down interview. I think the interview was about an hour and a half. And I saw the one that was done by, well, let me say this first. She did an interview. I think the interview was probably about an hour, hour and a half with a content creator on YouTube named The Pearly Things, Pearly Things. She's a Caucasian female, happens to be US, but she's an expat living in Britain. Now, the review of it I saw was done by another content creator named Mediocre Tutorials and Review. If you have a chance, go look at the Brittany Renner interview with the Pearly Things and chronicle her movements coming from a small town in Mississippi, getting exposure on a national level, engaging in some of the things that we were talking about with the parent and teaching, and what she's now coming into the understanding of. And the contrast that is juxtaposed when you hear the Mediocre Tutorials and review of that. It was a revelation for me in terms of how she's now getting and receiving and processing information. Hey, before and now. This is what we were talking about with the grandmother at 35. It's doubtful that she has a son, I do believe. I believe it'll be highly doubtful, we'll have to wait for time to reveal this, that she is going to not give her son certain information about women, what they're looking for from men, and how to avoid it. We see a lot of guys get caught up by an attractive female. We see a lot of women, a lot of younger women get caught up by that guy who has the gift of gab. And next thing you know, boom, they're in that situation. Now that Brittany has the money she does, she's going to be less apt to targeting a man just for money. She's in that position now where she's saying, why am I valuable to you outside of sex? Because she's done that.
I would buy this whole new, realization and way of life from her if she wasn't at a point in time being predatory. And that's where, it does it for me. Because she wasn't just targeting men with money. She was targeting young men. Men that didn't really know any better. Men that were in a space of vulnerability of the groupies. And that's why I particularly don't like her, because she was taking advantage of these younger men. You weren't just selling sex to, men with money. You were she was capitalizing off of these men's weaknesses, and that I cannot get with. That's not okay. You take a 30-year-old man off of some things, you got him he gets you pregnant, blah 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 blah, whatever. That's the name of the game. But 20-year-olds and people 5 years your junior, like, come on now. You're messing with people's kids. You need to get beat up. No, I'm so serious. She needs to get beat up.
But this is the thing. Do you let me not say fault, because I think that's the incorrect term. Are we going to really punish her for taking advantage of the things she was born with?
No, but see, that's the thing, and that's exactly my point. She wasn't. She was being predatory in what she was doing. That's
Mm-hmm.
like me at this age, scouting out, college young college boys that I know like they're gonna make it to the league. I know they're gonna make it. So I'm gonna
Mhm.
go, you know, put it on him with the game that these 21 to 25-year-olds don't have. The people that
Mhm.
are on his level, they don't have. So I'm gonna be
Mhm.
able to swindle him easily.
Mhm.
I am going to be able to get him caught up because he doesn't have all of, and although, as athletes, I know most guys are taught, a lot of things, a lot of things. I dealt with a guy that, he's so far, he probably 15 years removed from those situations, and he still to this day will tell you if you a certain level, I don't care how long he been with you, I don't care if he got kids with you, you a certain level of drunk, I ain't fucking you.
Oh,
Nope.
absolutely. Yeah.
You ain't
That
gonna
was the
tell
standard
nobody,
rule I
and I
had.
don't care. I don't care if we live together. Not doing it. You ain't gonna say
Yeah.
I raped you. But I just feel like she was preying on those people of certain ages,
Uh-oh.
and that's what bothers me. You're messing with those kids that don't have it all the way together. That not don't have it all the way together, but don't like you can tell me something, but I haven't gone through life enough to really take heed to this. I know some things and some situations I'm not gonna get caught in. But if you really put me in a situation to say, let's just say you take me out to dinner one time, right? Next
Mhm.
dinner, I'm gonna take you out. You fly me out after a game. Now the next day, I pay for massages and stuff like that. That's something that an older woman is gonna do. Not that the 25-year-old girl, she gonna take, 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 take. But an older woman, she has the knowledge where she's like, I'm gonna make him think I'm gonna go half and half, or I'm gonna make him think that it's both of us in this. I'm gonna make him think this, that, and the third. And that's what she was doing. And I don't like that. I
Well,
can't get with her.
let me ask you this question. Name an aspect of the world from the animal kingdom all up to humans that isn't predatory.
I don't care. She knew better.
No, no, no. I'm not disagreeing with you, but this is why fathers are important in a boy's life.
But I wouldn't. So I get your. So you guys know that I don't disagree with that statement at all. But I don't think again, just because you can have a father and he can have told you these things, but again, there's certain things that you have to live through and be through
Mhm.
to get really what it is. Unless you gonna go run back to your father and play by play. And don't get me wrong, there are some things in my life that I wish, especially after my mom died, that versus me saying thinking in the back of my head, I have the game, I have the rule books, I was told all of these things. Some things I wish I would have made that phone call, called my aunt, and been like, "Look, this is what he said. This is what he said. So what should I do? No, you should do this. And this is what he said. So I da 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 da. Da. This is what I said. Like I now, unless you're doing that, then you're in a good position. But regardless of whether you have that foundation or not, sometimes you're gonna get caught up in certain things.
No, you will. I want to answer
And
Greg's question.
age and experience changes a lot of actions and things because again, even when I think about me, there are some things that
Hey,
I would have done completely different. But I got the knowledge. I was given the knowledge. I was given the tools to, you know, not do certain things or not to fall for certain things, but I didn't run it play by play to the coach. So, I can know the game of football, but I still have a coach. I still have somebody that's creating the plays. And if you don't come back and report to them, some things are going to be amiss.
correct. Two things. I want to answer. I want to answer Greg's question. Why do we?
Hey,
And,
hey.
and Greg's question is a very good one. He says, "Why do we excuse being predatory at all?" I'm not excusing it. I understand it. And understanding something is not excusing it. Understanding means that you know how to avoid it. Case in point.
Right. That's how predatory is pretty much how the world goes. We see it in the
Mm-hmm.
triangle schemes. We see it
Mm-hmm.
with credit card companies. We see it
Mm-hmm.
with mortgage companies.
Mm-hmm.
We see it with
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
So It's not necessarily excusing predatory
That's why.
behavior. It's knowing that in certain senses, this is what we do. Look at the payday loan system.
Yes.
You're gonna tax me at 200%. If I had this much money, I wouldn't be coming to you in the first place.
That's why that's a question prior. Now, LeVar Ball, for those of you who follow the NBA, he has 3 sons. He told his sons, he said, do not, I repeat, do not take any woman that you are dating or doing anything with seriously until after your playing career is over. He told each one of his sons that before they got into the league. I believe, LeVar, LaMelo, and I can't remember the other one, all made the league. LeVar, which one was drafted by the Lakers? David, do you recall?
Yeah, I know. I'm having a slippage. What's
Yeah.
his name? Damn.
Yeah. Look, yeah. But he told him flat out, don't, because they're after you for your money. Don't deal with them until after your playing career is over. Now, to what you're saying about Brittany, absolutely she targeted. But if he'd have had a father in his life or a male principal who'd have said, look, dude, you about to come into a boatload of money. Don't deal with these chicks. At least don't deal with them on that level. And certainly don't deal with a female like Brittany. There's a song by Billy Joel called The Entertainer, in which he talks about certain things. And he said the things he didn't learn at first, he had to learn by doing twice. That's where some of us are. We're into repeating mistakes. I've been down that road. I've mentioned that on this platform before about the multiple claims of false pregnant women. And I got to a point at 30 where I said, okay, I got to do stuff differently because this isn't working out. And lo and behold, I came out on the other side of that a better person. But it took some Lonzo, yep. But it took some self-reflecting and not blaming on my behalf for me to get there.
We have Annette on here. We haven't seen her in a while. Happy New Year. Thanks for joining us. I know you said you had something to add to the conversation.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Well, right. I'll say this. I don't want to exploit anyone. But I'll say that people have a goal and a mission with these NFL, NBA players and stuff like that. When I was dating my ex, the women that were setting traps or beginning to set traps or want to set traps, it was astonishing to me. You know what I'm saying? And that's their aim and their goal. They're aiming their goal because you have some women, let's be honest, they don't want to work. Their work is to get what they need to get. Okay. No matter how they get it. Okay. So sometimes you get caught up in it because sometimes people looking for love with all of the stuff they got, all of the good stuff that's going on and all of the pressure. They're looking for somebody that I can just lay my head on and be like, you know what, this game was sucked. I didn't do this. This didn't happen. And they get that temporary fix from these women and they think that's their be all end all. That's the ride and die. 9 out of 10, that ain't the ride and the die. She just riding.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just keeping it 100. She just riding with you. She ain't gonna die with you. So now they got this new thing. It's like, you know, that's why I laugh when I see these basketball wives, football wives, all this stuff. I be laughing because half of these women ain't wives no more. Or half of them was never wives. They was just girlfriends. So now we just go for any okie doke now. We go for anything. We just let people just put a label. You know, that's why all that mess came up with wifey. Listen, if you ain't the WIFE, you ain't nothing. It ain't no such thing as wifey. wifey is a glorified name that he is not going to marry you, baby. Newsflash, he's officially not going to marry you if he
I
tag
hate
you
that
as
in
wifey.
fiance. Hate that in fiance. I do not have a ring on my finger. I'm not anybody's
Exactly. Like
fiance.
you are not wifey. Matter of fact, you might be side chick number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
And that's why I say date them all, sis, and may the best man win.
Exactly. Exactly. That's why people need to be honest about open dating, about, just be honest about it. I had a guy just tell me, that I've been talking to for the past 4.5 months. He was like floored because of the comment I gave him. Like, I'm like, why are you floored? I'm being honest. I mean, would you prefer me not to tell you or to walk around here and fake it? You know what I'm saying? Because I could fake it, but I ain't faking it till I make it. I'm just going to fake it. I ain't trying to make it nowhere. But it's just, people just don't want, I think people want the fluff now. They don't, as much as people say, I just want you to be honest with me. And when you're being honest with them, they can't accept it. They want the fluff. Everybody want the, the reality TV performance, the reality TV response. Nobody want the real. The real is, I'm open dating. I'm just dating you because I'm trying to figure out me still. And you just in the process of me figuring out me.
Yeah.
Don't expect anything more. If you don't get any feelings from it, just know I'm still in me. But a lot of times people don't want to be honest and say that because they want to strip people away from their choice. And when you strip somebody away from their choice, you're going to get whatever you get.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't need to add anything to that. That's like they tell, I think the Latin phrase is caveat emptor, buyer beware. Better know what lake you're swimming in.
Yeah, and that's why we talk about having uncomfortable conversations. That sometimes things are going to get uncomfortable, and you say you want the real, but like Anetta said, people want the fluff. They don't want anything that's going to kind of cause them any distress or a setback. So some of the stuff is just phrases people use, and they really don't mean it. So they keep it real with me, keep it real. They just talk. A lot of it should just be JBT and just be talking. People just be talking.
But I also be laughing because I just said this yesterday. I was like, listen, this for y'all men and women. Y'all is too old out here to be still playing these games. For real. You 50 years old and you still talk about if I do anything to marry you. Ninja, no, you won't. Okay, if you ain't never been married, you just met me at 50, 51, 52. You ain't doing anything to be married. You desperate because something don't fell apart, something ain't working the way it's supposed to work. And right
now you feel like you have to prove something.
Just finish this out so you can finish the remainder of my life with me. You know what? I'm not gonna do it.
But you know what? And that's happening at a younger age because somebody at 35 he was like, I just want to be married to somebody. And I was just like, somebody. Not me, somebody.
But do you guys want to know what the funny thing about what you're saying is? This is in management parlance, this is a real pill moment for women. The only difference is men are now being judged, and understandably so. And this is something that actually we might actually even bring this up next week. Is do women have a right to be displeased with men for any reason?
What do you mean by that? We
often hear, at least in the manosphere, that men aren't making enough money to hold down the family, a traditional family. So the mother or the wife of the children could be a stay-at-home woman. And if that is true, then what do the men need to do to be that type of man? Does he need to pick up because Kevin Samuels used to say this all the time and people poo-pooed him. He said, work a full-time job and then go get another part-time job. He said, use that part-time job money to improve yourself so you can go out and pay the cost. Kevin Samuels was a fervent proponent of man paying every penny of what it takes to secure his wife and raise a family. He was a proponent of keeping the wife in the house. So under that guise and some other things, do women have the right to be displeased and upset with men in this current economic situation and climate that we're in Western culture? And I think it's something that needs to be discussed, because it's only discussed in a manosphere. It hasn't really reached the larger part of society to the point, because now we hear all this nonsense about Gen Z men laying flat. A lot of them are in the workforce. Just for whatever reason, they're not working. So you have an entire segment of society into now their adult years who are contributing financially to society. So if they're not working, that means less taxes are paid. And ultimately, the government is going to get that money from somewhere. Guess who they're going to get it from? The working class people. So, how does this become a situation that can be rectified? What do we do? And where do we start? Because ultimately, this has to turn around. If not, we're looking at a societal collapse. No money, you can't run government programs. You can't run government programs. A lot of things are going to start to suffer. So that, like I said, that was one of the talking points I gotta find my list. But that was one of the things. Do women have a right to be upset with men for not earning, for not being the traditional men?
But are they, to me, it's like, are they not doing or not earning because they just sitting on their butts? Or are they putting their pride aside and saying, my wife has what it takes to propel this family forward. So I need to sit down and play the back, or I need to sit down and be a good teammate and stay at home with the kids because my wife has what it takes to propel this family forward.
Well, it's not so much about that. We're not saying that a woman cannot do those things. That's not the guys that I'm bringing this
No,
up
that's not
under.
my point either. But what I'm saying is, just because you have this influx of men that aren't working and are staying at home, that doesn't necessarily mean that this new generation of men are just good for nothing scumbags. They can come to the realization, and they may have been a generation where I'm letting go of my ego and I'm letting go of that pride, and I'm saying, I know that my wife has a 7-figure income. Why would I ask her to stay at home with the kids when I'm making 6 figures, or I'm making less than that? And if we let her do her thing first, this family will be in a far better position.
All right, let me ask you this question: how many women fit that criteria? What percentage?
With the amount of influencers, and like, as far as, like, just like Anetta said, with the basketball wives and stuff like that, there's a lot of women coming into that. Because, and now, don't get me wrong, it may have started off the men, but because of that platform, they've been able to open businesses. And what's the word that I'm
Dear, you
looking
still
for?
haven't given me a percentage. I just want a
I think
percentage.
it's most. I think a lot of women. I think it may
You
be.
can't, you always want to give a percentage on something like that. You can't give a percentage, because unless you have surveyed every woman in this entire world, you can't give a percentage. I keep saying that to you about statistics. Statistics are based on a small group of people that they gather together. You can't give a percentage. And I'm gonna keep saying that over and over again. And they say that about statistics when you do a Google. They even colleges, they only get a small portion of the student body to get the statistics numbers. So you can't give that. It is, like she said, it's a large portion of women who do make a decent income. Majority of the women.
Hold on. She didn't say decent. She said 7 or 6 figure.
Yeah,
That was.
I know
Hold
a couple.
on.
I know at
I
least
said seven. I said seven figures. But if you think
7
about it, let's
figures
put
is
it
$1
in.
million.
I
And
know a
that's
few
what I
at least.
mean.
I know
And
six
that's
figure.
what I
I know a
mean.
lot of 6-figure women, and I know a
How
lot.
many 7-figure women do you know?
There are many, and I'm not just
Hold
talking
on.
about black
I'm
women.
asking
I'm
about
talking
my
about.
personal people, group of people. I know 3. One, I think, but I'm not really sure. But I know 3.
And
Okay.
it's these reality, and again, I'm not going to sit here and say, "Oh well, the men haven't started this, or the men weren't the
100,000.
ones that put them in a position to have this platform," because a lot of times that
But
is the case.
that's not what I'm
But what
talking
I'm
about. What I'm
saying is
what
also, but
I
even then, let's talk about travel nursing. If I can
you
make,
don't have a
if
travel
you're
nurse that's pulling in $1 million.
you
They're
tripping,
pulling in 6 figures.
you are no, they are pulling
I
in
know some
because
nurses
of
that
no,
are
no, no,
pulling
no,
in
no, no,
6 figures,
no, no, no,
but
no,
you
wait,
don't know any nurses that are pulling in
I
7
do.
figures.
No,
do.
let me take
I
that back.
do.
I know
Let's.
some. No,
We all do.
The one girl I'm talking about is a nurse practitioner.
But no,
Okay.
let's talk about these RNs that have travel nursed and
Yes.
then they're taking advantage of social media. So not only
Yes.
they start taking advantage of social media, they
You tell
start
them back.
doing what they were taught. So now they're selling nurses like me things like how to get your BSN in 8 weeks, how to get your master's in 12 weeks, how to
Mhm.
do this, how to go to DMP, how to get with the right contractors. And by them making these commercials for all of these contractors and recruiters, they're getting a percentage. So when I go on a website like ConnectRN and I press that link from that girl's page, she getting a percentage of every big penny that they make off of me.
Okay,
And
let
her
me simplify
husband,
this.
well, wait, her husband would be a fool to say, I'm the president of such and such, and I make $150,000. So I'm not staying home with the kids when my wife could be in Dubai and bring us that back in 4 weeks.
Mhm. Mhm.
All income made in the United States is verifiable. How do we
Absolutely.
know? Because the IRS documents it. So we can go to an IRS website and find out how many women are pulling in 7 figures. That's not debatable. So when I ask for a percentage,
That's not
that's what I'm
true.
talking about.
That's not true. That's not
How do you
true.
think they could get people on tax evasion?
Listen, they ain't worried about us little people, and we are still considered little people. And these women that are making this money off of Instagram, they are still considered little people to the to IRS. All of that stuff don't
Okay.
have to go through. That's one of the things that they sell you.
Let me put it to you
Let
like
me
this. Go ahead.
$49.99. Let me show you how to maximize your income and eliminate a lot of your taxes. And baby, we not going to jail because I'm not going to jail.
Let me
Right.
put it to you like this then. Why do you think the IRS has now
Right.
started sending out tax forms for people who are getting money through Cash App? Why do you think
Right.
YouTube takes? Hold on. Why do you think YouTube takes a percentage of what's the name, chat money, and they send the person a tax form? They're
I agree with
closing the
all of that.
loopholes on all of that stuff because the government wants their penny. Trust me, you're not making any money in this country as a U.S. citizen, and the government don't know about it.
That's
You
not
can
true.
hang that up.
It's not
That
true.
is not happening.
Not true.
All right. When you find a way to hide income, let me know.
Mm. Okay.
People do it. Donald Trump did it.
Donald Trump
No,
is taking advantage of tax loopholes. There's a
I
difference
know.
between
No,
taking
no, no.
advantage of
That's
tax
people
That,
loopholes
that's taking
and
advantage.
hiding income.
Same thing.
but cash only businesses still exist.
They do.
Cash only
I
businesses still exist.
I'm not saying that they
I
don't.
know
They
people right now that is only going to take cash, and guess what? They ain't putting that shit in no bank. And they don't care. Why? Because everything that I need and everything I want based on my income, I already got. So the rest of this money,
Mhm.
I'm gonna make it do what it do in my house, in my safe.
And see, I think people I understand her point too, but I also understand the lady's point that sometimes it takes a while for people to catch on to something. So people are going to they're going to milk a situation until it may take years or whatever the case.
And then I'm gonna learn how to get
Yeah.
out of that.
Yeah, so you got to stay acclimated and stay and make adjustments. But people always try to find ways to come up. But sooner or later, man, the government may catch on to it or whatever the case is. But that may be years into it.
Right, but that's when they hit you with the back tax bill, and people aren't aware of that. They think that once they get that money and they're cleared, they're done. The IRS will go back 10 years and audit you, and then they'll say, "Well, this is what you owe based on our estimations, and you can't escape it." This is why you have a lot of celebrities who are going overseas to places where they don't have extradition, so they don't have to worry about that. Telling you.
All I'm gonna say is, if you're gonna be a criminal, you have to know the law. And whether you are a violent criminal or you are somebody that just does, the white collar crimes, these people know. These people study. These people work with licensed professionals to do these things.
Most of the criminals come right out of Wall Street.
Yeah, hello.
Absolutely, they do. But that's my point when I say they're taking advantage of tax shelters, charitable contributions, all that. Because Home Hospice was just and they made an excellent point about him or her and the CPA knowing the law. So if you do that, it's not anything criminal. But that doesn't mean the government can't go back and still say you owe this money. There's a difference between something being criminal.
I know someone that takes money and not takes money. You pay for a service under a donation.
Yeah.
And guess what? Guess who gets money back?
They do.
Me,
I'm
but me
aware
as
of
a
how all
person
this
that
stuff
paid,
works.
me and the person that paid for it, that I paid. So now we both making money. So you may have charged me $200, but it's under a donation. So guess what? This is my donation for the year. So tax return.
And one thing, when you said, brings up a point when you said know the law. I remember as a youngster in college taking poli-sci, political science. That was one of the things I always say: know the law, understand the law. And quite often, many of us don't know the law. That's why sometimes police officers and people like that are able to do what they do to us because we don't know the law. So sometimes you have to, like I said, if you're going to be a criminal, you better study the law. You better understand the ins and outs and stuff instead of just doing it based on which someone else told you can pull off, but you don't really know the ins and outs of doing things.
That's why you have a lot of people that once they hit a certain threshold in terms of income, they have a team of CPAs, they have a team of lawyers because they pay for themselves. I'm not saying that they're women, they're not women out here who aren't pulling down 7 figures. I'm just simply saying on the high end, it's about 6 or 7% of the female population in this country. Those women aren't trying to necessarily take time off to get married or raise their kids because they understand the financial ramifications of what happens if they get divorced. So they're not trying to get married. They're not trying to have kids because now they become the person that's being held responsible for paying spousal support or child support. See, we're at a point now. Say it again.
That's why a lot of these women, though, you have to realize the women that we're talking about, they've already been subject to a prenup because when I got in this marriage,
prenup doesn't cover child support.
No. I'm just saying this. What I'm saying is, a lot of the times, these women, especially the women that I'm talking about, they were already subject to a prenup because when they came into this marriage, the man made the money. So you already had me sign a prenup. A prenup don't just go one way, it goes 2 ways. So now you're protected and I'm protected. So again, you would be a fool to not allow me to propel this family forward.
But the thing that people have to realize that a prenup only protects pre-marriage assets. anything accumulated during the marriage.
That's not true. You can break all of that down. You can break all of that down. You can break all of that down.
No, that's
You
not
can-
true
you have-
because you can
you
have
have-
a detailed. You can have a detailed prenup, which means it's a detailed prenup stating that whatever type of
infidelity clause.
Yeah,
Clause. You can
it
have
has so many clauses and stipulations that can be in a prenup. That's why it's
anything
so,
that's
if you
in
go
my
online,
name or
Google
anything
all of
that's
the
in your
different type of
name.
prenups.
Exactly.
Hold on.
Anything that's
I
in
will.
your name, anything that's in my name, we can keep. If we put it in our, if it's the marital home, then we split the proceeding. You can
Yeah.
detail all of that stuff.
The gentleman I mentioned at the top of the show, the lead attorney, he specializes in divorce. There is no prenup that can't be challenged. That's per his words. Like I said,
Yes,
I
there
don't
is
tell you.
nothing in life that can be challenged. It can be challenged.
There's no
doesn't mean that
law
they're going to win.
that can't be challenged. Look at the world we live
Every
in.
law
We
gets
what the
challenged.
fuck?
But I'm
But-
telling you,
but-
the prenup is a legal document. Now they can fight it as long as they want, but at the end of the day, they gotta honor that legal document. You know,
All right.
you need to.
Okay. All right.
I ain't about to put nobody business in the street, but just trust me.
No, it's not a matter of not trusting what you're saying. I'm just
Now,
simply
I'm just
saying
saying any document can be challenged, but that's the key word, challenged. But the thing is, it's a legal document, and prenups can have so many. I have a girlfriend who was dating a well-known coach, okay? And they had a prenup. And they had bought rental properties, summer properties, the house, this and this and that. And I would have never married him because the way he was. And he made her sign a prenup.
Mhm.
But before she signed it, she put conditions in that prenup. And when she put them conditions in there, she came out pretty good. She came out pretty good. Now, he kept taking her back and forth to court. He was trying to hide money, do this. She came out good.
It's a lot of it's a method to everybody's madness. It's just a lot going on, and I'm just listening and learning right now. Right now, as far as all the different things that people are able to pull off, and trust and believe. Usually, those people who pull off stuff. Remember, we talked about earlier having a team of people to help them get to a certain destination. You don't do that without knowledge of someone, who could school you in the game, and that's why it's important to have people at all levels.
Yeah, I agree. Come on, boy.
That is a cat, not a dog.
I'm sorry. How old are you? Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. Nobody tells me what I say in my home.
Come on, boy.
I missed that. What happened?
I was calling my cat, and
You
the
was
cat
calling
happens
the
to be a male, so I pat on the couch. Come here, boy. She said, "That's a cat, not a dog." My mom's dead. This is about the only person that might have had some sway in what I say in this home. Mike.
You called that cat like it was.
In response.
60-pound black. Responds.
Let me put it to you like this. You'd rather run into some dogs as opposed to that cat.
You said what?
You would rather run into some dogs as opposed to that cat.
Oh, absolutely. I'm scared of cats. I don't like cats.
Cats are sneaky creatures. I don't do cats. Cats are very sneaky.
Yeah.
And
Many cats could beat dogs.
You wanna break me down? Put a cat in front of me.
Listen, girl, I was coming out of Texas D Brazil like 3 weeks ago, and it was a homeless person on the corner, and she pulled the cat out her coat. You talking about a sister ran?
Would have died right there.
I missed my car. I ran past my car And my girlfriends and that was like, "Are you serious? In them hills?" I said, "I don't play with cats. Not at all, not a little bit." She's sitting there pulling the cat out. $2, $2. I took off. I was like, "Nah, I don't do cats." I was like, "Lady, ma'am, you was about to be crying for the holiday because I was about to run and drop kick. Her cat was gonna go up in the top of that building because I was gonna kick it up there."
There's a reason why in sports they use the terminology "cat quick" and stuff like that because their level of quickness and their instincts is like no other. So that's that. We're gonna get ready to get some closing comments and get out of here. Back to work I go tomorrow, so shit's gonna be amplified.
For you.
You know, ain't no poor me, but it's just real. Back to the grind. So, you know, we covered a lot, had a lot of good information, and basically the ones on the panel. If y'all have anything as far as talking points for next week, make sure you email me. I mean, not email, message me then so that I can start building that show. But let's start with let's end with some closing comments from everything that was discussed this evening.
I'm gonna go first with a couple things. I pulled this up. This is actually I got this off of Facebook. I actually seen this in a couple iterations, and I said rules to teach your son. And I thought there were some very good ones on here. A couple of the ones that I found really apropos was number 26, and this has a list of 34. And this one says, "Give credit, take blame." Sounds contrary, but what it does is it demonstrates leadership. And far too often in our homes, in our cultures and communities, we have a lot of people that are, you know, they're willing to always place blame. Me, I always like to look at my situation and I ask myself, what could I have done better? Because I've found that working with the public, sometimes it isn't what you do wrong, is what I could have done better. And I'm always going over interactions with people and seeing how I could tweak what I do to make outcomes a little more palatable for both people involved. So for me, it's always an ever evolving thing in terms of what I do or how I accept things or how I go about changing things. So, you know, for me, it's always paramount for me. I don't know about anybody else, to examine what it is I do and how that potentially impacts my ability to be a better employer, better person going forward, you know. So that's always my goal, you know, every day I get up is to be better, you know. So with that said, as I like to say, growth and understanding occurs in a gray area. Godspeed. See you next time.
Thanks. Thank you. Who's next?
Herb, I like that. I was sitting here like, yeah.
I'm gonna have to tap you too. I got about 200 questions, but I see I'm missing something. So I'm gonna have to tap you two ladies. We'll get into that a little later. Yes, I got about 200.
Listen, you don't want to tap me. My dating life has been like, don't nobody get out here judge me. I'm dating.
No, I'm talking about the 100 questions.
I don't even ask questions no more. I'm dating like 4 or 5 different men.
But and see that's you. But you brought up something earlier, and you said to the guy when you were being honest that you don't have time for what?
The feelings and emotion stuff.
So why can't there be a question? Well, see, because I'm writing this pamphlet.
But you gotta be honest. You gotta be honest. You can't say that.
Got to get this pamphlet done in 2023, Herb.
Yeah, I know.
Herb, you can't say that and then get caught up in your feelings. because the guy agreed with me. And
Mhm.
then when I told him, he said, "What you doing on such and such day?" I was like, "Oh, I'm going to hang out with my friend such and such." And then 2 days later, I was really dumbfounded that you told me you was going to hang. You in your feelings. So you can't when you say that, you gotta be consistent and stick to the process.
But that's a question, and that's my point. You ask an individual, when you say something, do you mean it, or are you just full of shit?
No, you can't say it like that. You just gotta ask.
Why not?
Yeah, the question gotta be. It can't be like that because that's already coming out negative. You just gotta tell me where you at right now. Are you looking for a relationship? Are you seeking a relationship? Do you want a relationship?
But that's why I said I need to. But that's why I said I need to tap y'all.
Yeah, go ahead and tap. I'm tappable.
All right. I mean, so is that your closing comment on that, or you got something?
Yeah, that's my thought. I don't really have no closing comment. I just jumped on here.
Oh, no.
We appreciate it.
Oh, good, yeah.
I'm about to go to bed.
We miss you, whatever. Hopefully we'll get your appearance more often, or at least a little bit of it.
Drink a lot of water, get proper rest, communicate well, have a great year. Do not do resolutions, do goals, activate them, and walk in your purpose. That's all I got.
Appreciate it. Thanks for joining us.
You're
Shaughnessy. Shaughnessy, you with us? Or you on break? Okay. Well, my closing comments, we had a lot of different conversations going on at one time. We even, the comment, even with the Bills and Damar Hamlin. I think sometimes it's bigger than what it is. Like when we think about the Buffalo Blizzard and all of that stuff, like sometimes life is bigger than what that particular moment may evolve. When people was out there, like I said, Christmas shopping or trying to do that, they're playing a football game and he collapsed. Like sometimes we have to look at life. We only have one life. And I guess we got to preserve it and try to do the best we can. And certain things, I'm glad they called the game, but I was looking at certain comments on Facebook during that time, and they was like, they suspended the game, and they was like, why would they? They never seen anything like that, and they, people are already putting out there like, is he dead? Did he die? Or whatever the case is, and that's the reason. It's crazy, man. I mean, you don't expect stuff like this. And again, I continue to go with this Buffalo thing. Like it's been so much that this city has went through. And I hadn't made a post a week ago. Like, I hope they can bring home the Super Bowl, but that shit doesn't matter, man, if you lose lives and stuff like that. But especially in this case with one of their players, I just hope that he survives this, and I hope that people realize shit can happen just like that. You just never know. You never know. We take a lot of things for granted, and we have to live every day like this could be our last, and try to do the best that we can do, and be the best people we can be during that time. Nothing is promised. And I think that's my closing comment. We gotta look at it. Nothing is promised. Nothing is guaranteed. So we got to keep marching forward. I hope everything works out. I hope he's okay. Prayers for his family, the Buffalo Bills, the NFL, and everybody, because this would be, a major setback. Because who feel like playing sport and play when your brother is in a condition? He's in critical condition right now. That takes away everything.
Yeah, that's a different part. He's on a ventilator from the update that they given. And I know a lot of people is on Facebook, and just to give my medical background with that, with number of years in nursing and neuro, that what people think was not an impactful hit, just a hit can jar the spinal cord, which can collapse, shatter, fracture, anything. And just a jar to the brain can cut off his airwaves that he would not breathe, or even make the heart expand and give a falsehood of a heart attack. It can cardio arrest, anything. So that little hit, with people saying, oh, that hit wasn't impactful enough, it don't take much for the body.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much for the body at all. So, for him to be incubated and immediately on a ventilator, it's definitely something neural or something with the heart.
That's what they did at the stadium, or en route.
No, they did that en route. They did, because what people and I'm 100% sure they did the pump en route, because most medics are not trained to do that.
Yeah.
They're not trained to go that far. They're trained to do the artificial pump and go. And so
most likely what happened, if you look at the timeline, most likely they had a doctor on board.
Yeah. And
I
I'm
only know that
100%
because
sure
I
they
did
had a
the
physician.
EMS. Yeah,
they had a
the
physician
EMS thing
there, and the physician, all he got to do is straddle and begin to do what he does.
Yeah, because you have all the tools on the ambulance.
Yeah,
you just need somebody certified.
Somebody that's certified that knows how to do it, because you have, in so many cases, they have to do things immediately. It's not even like, and it's nothing that people be like, oh, CPR is not like that, guys. I don't want y'all to think that,
that's a whole different ball game.
This pack of critical condition CPR, you know what I'm saying? So they definitely needed defibrillators, they needed machines, they needed all this stuff. They needed medical devices to get it going. Okay. And so something had to be there for him to get to this stage, because he could have, for him to be the stage he could have died on the field.
Right.
Lord God, thank you, Jesus. That didn't happen. But
it's devastating.
It's definitely, they had the medical people out there. They were able to transport immediately, quickly.
And you know what?
That's good. I know certain people were saying we need to have a trauma unit on every NFL field. That's great and wonderful, and I agree with having the trauma unit. But when you start having mobile trauma units, then you're going to eliminate some of the stuff that they can't have in the hospital that they need immediately. Okay, and that's what people miss. When you work in the hospital, there's certain equipment that can preserve life that you may not have mobile access to. Okay. And so I know a lot of people are saying that, it's certain things they should have, but certain things in trauma, you just can't have it immediately. Because the thing about trauma is thought. Everything is quick thought, trauma, quick thought. It's not like somebody come in and they had a stroke and you're giving them medication to slow down the stroke. Trauma is quick thought on your feet. You ain't got time to make no mistakes. You need the experts in there, because everybody need to be thinking on the same page. They need to preserve life and come on, let's go. We don't got time to be talking. We don't got time. Let's go.
Not only that, you have so many collaboratory teams. So when people call a trauma in a hospital, they call it overhead. That's not because we already here.
And they didn't put him to sleep, my brother, Greg. That's called it's a medically induced coma. So they give you medication through a venous IV to make sure that your body is totally relaxed. So they can begin to run tests, so they can begin medication, so they can make sure that he doesn't have any blood on the brain and his internally. They have to make sure that his arteries are flowing properly. So in order for them to do that, they have to
need a team.
Put a medical induced coma to let the body totally rest, so they can do a total scan on the body. So it's not sleep, that's medically induced coma.
See, this is an example that we talked about, having people knowledgeable in certain areas that can school and break you down on this stuff. Because you don't know it. People just post and comment, but they don't know shit. But when you have somebody like Anetta and Shaughnessy, who's been in this field, they know a little bit more. So sometimes people need to just quit talking and just let stuff play out. and listen and learn. And people so emotional and just be typing stuff. Be a lot going on.
Yeah,
man.
and they need to stop because this is such a critical time for the family. I posted something just to let people know because I seen so much misguided information, and me and my cousin was on the same page, and we're both, been in the nursing field for a while. And I did geriatrics, I did trauma, I did hospice, and now I'm in behavioral mental health. So
God bless you.
It's so many layers to trauma. And like I said, with the layers of trauma, your team has to be married to each other because they have to think without speaking.
That's what you were saying earlier, Shaughnessy.
Mm-hmm. Right. So when we call a trauma in the emergency room, we got to think about it. It's doctors already there. But we want respiratory therapy to come down. We want X-ray to come down. We need CT to be on ready. We need the lab to be on ready because we need our blood from our lab. We need you to check our blood types ASAP.
Because you don't know if I got to give a blood transfusion. You don't know if they have to do a spinal tap. You don't know what, you know what I'm saying? And you just got to
keep no blood. Imagine keeping
everything is fast. You don't have time. You don't have time to wait for, I need his medical records. You don't have time for that. So everything you got to do is got to be so generic, but so preventive and helpful. Because you don't have time to look at all that stuff. About time they look at that, that's when they don't got him totally stabilized. Now they trying to put the whole puzzle together and the pieces together. So now you got the nurses, you got the mother
all the time. That's why
not able to be coherent to give information. You got the coaches. People want to get play-by-play. They're gonna look at the video and see how did he collapse? What was the hit? How much of the impact? Was it an impact? How was he feeling prior to that? Did he seem sluggish? Did he play a game a few weeks ago and had a concussion? Did he get hit? It's so many things that goes into play.
Old brain bleed, new brain bleed.
Yeah.
Like what was it that rendered him needing CPR? Because to me, I felt like when he got up, he was fine and his blood pressure dropped. And when he actually hit the floor, when his blood pressure dropped, that's what's causing the injury.
Yeah.
And to further drive home what Shaughnessy and Annetta are saying is that about 30 years ago, there's a hockey player. His name was Clint Malarchuk. Played goaltender for the Buffalo Sabres, who happened to take a skate to his throat. It just so happened that the Sabres medical staff had EMT is not the correct word. He was a Vietnam vet who specialized in certain things right there on the ice. And if it hadn't been for what he did, Clint Malarchuk would have never made it to the hospital because the skate had actually cut into his carotid artery. So he was able to stop the bleeding enough for them to get him to, I think he may have went to ECMC because ECMC is the only level 1 trauma center in the Western New York area, and saved his life. So absolutely what they're saying is critical to that type of care.
So much people. Oh man, it's like I said, it makes you think on different levels when you face with critical situations like this, whatever. But again, we know we do our clowning on here. We go back and forth, but so much real knowledge is put out there, and don't ever underestimate with people. Again, like I said, who have expertise in certain areas. And a lot of times with social media, you have people who don't have expertise in those areas, but they do a lot of talking. And we have to move away from that. And sometimes you just have to sit back and observe and listen to the people that been skilled and trained in that area.
Like me, because I got my law degree from SVU University.
So it's crazy, but we're gonna get out of here, and I'm about to watch some Sports Center and try to stay abreast on this because that shit hurt. It's painful. It's painful.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know till I absolutely have to know.
Yeah,
I
I'm
just,
about to shut down my phone because I can't. When I say I can't take no more bad news, no more. I mean,
Anxiety
just
of it all.
it's just. I mean, because I'm an empath and I wear people hurt and feelings and emotions, and I'll be like toe up for days. So I
Well,
can't. I can't.
everybody, and that's the thing. Everybody deal with things differently, and I understand that. I just want to get caught up on that. When I look at the TV and the tears in the eyes, it's scary, man. Life is real.
It
That's
is.
real,
It
and
is.
people
It
need to
is
understand
short.
that it's not a damn game. And a lot
It's
of people
not.
think it's a
Nah.
game.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
I did go walking in the blizzard, so as crazy as it might seem, I was feeling a little intrepid. So,
And even walking in a blizzard, sometimes trekking through that stuff, if you ain't well prepared, you could
oh
collapse
no, trust me,
plenty of time. Yeah.
I was equipped, snow pants, the whole masked up, gloved up. I was ready for what Mother Nature had. It wasn't that bad.
Yeah, but you inhaling, exhaling, you a little older. People
Yeah.
think they know you. People think I know my body. You don't know your body until something happens.
Yeah, and that's why I
Oh
say
no,
listen
no.
to your body.
Trust me, I'm not foolish. I might be intrepid, but I ain't foolish now.
Yeah, my flights was canceled, and I was like feeling some type of way. And then I was like, okay, God, you does things for a reason. I have to expect that I gotta stay in Texas and can't see my kids and grandkids. But you know, loved ones missing, friends, children die, older people I know pass away, house fire of close friends of mine. They lost 4 kids that died in the fire. So it's so much going on. You know what I'm saying? And then we want to sit here and be bickering on Facebook over trivia, insignificant stuff. You know,
And usually those people that do it just don't have shit going on, don't have compassion, or whatever the case is.
well, we in a society where everybody is so selfish.
And they're experts. Everybody's experts on everything.
I will say this much though: Buffalo was horrible. It wasn't as bad in Niagara Falls. If I was in Buffalo, ain't no way in the world I'd have brought my ass outside. I'd have stayed in the house. Ain't no damn way.
Mm-hmm.
I have a rule. If I can see 50 feet in front of me, I'm going home. And that's what it was. I wasn't really trying to prove any bravado or anything. I was just like, look, I can see, I'm okay. I'm going home.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather be home. And for me, it's only a mile walk. It's my exercise. Put the body under a little bit of stress.
70 miles per hour winds and blur visibility. You just never know. You could put yourself out there walking and get picked off because nobody could see. It's just things just got to get better for that city, and they're always going to be in my prayers. That's home, and just got to keep marching forward. And it's already early in the year.
Second storm.
Yeah, we just gotta keep going, whatever. And we gotta stick together, whatever. And people gotta look at stuff that we're dying over, or people little small beefs that don't have to be. We have to tighten that shit up. It hope for a better outcome, because like I said, this life is real.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.
Good night.
We
All
out.
right.
Everybody, okay, we're out. I'm gonna close it out too. We out, and we'll see you next time. And everybody, just stay focused, stay locked in, be safe, and always be well. And being well is not always physically; it's mentally as well. To try to be well, the best that you can be. And if you feel you're not well, physically or mentally, talk to somebody. Get help. Talk to somebody. Life is short. I'm out on that note. We'll see y'all next time. Everybody, again, be well. Peace.